Not all are supposed to have this information, but the reason why I'm giving it out now is because the shamans have come down from the mountains and they're teaching about ayahuasca. They're teaching about how to become a rainbow light body.
Lion's mane and psilocybin, the research that's coming out on that is one thing. You can have these personal accounts, and that's how people get to start talking about things. But then when you have the research, you have the clinicals of people using it for different aspects, and there's positive stories that come about it, then obviously it's going to become more popular. Then in the state of Missouri, there is a push. I was talking to Missouri State Senator Bill Eigel in our studio today about the effects of psychedelic drugs, how they can help, what their effects are, how we can educate people. Because, of course, once again, it's all about getting an education, learning about something before you start ripping something. We already know we don't use all of our brains. We already know the benefits that marijuana can bring. And especially from a medicinal standpoint, we've learned so much in the last 10 years. Where will we be 10 years from now when we talk about the effects of mushrooms, psychedelic drugs, how they can help certain individuals, how they can be used from a medical standpoint? At this point in time, we're very honored because we want to learn. And we want you guys to learn as our viewers and listeners. We welcome in Lilly Gypsy. Lilly, thank you for coming into our show today to help teach us and learn more when it comes to mushrooms.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm
Okay.
excited.
Okay, so you haven't had an opportunity to hear us yet. We let in to the whole situation of mushrooms. If you could explain to us how you got involved, and we'll just have a good conversation when you first started using, what you use, and the benefits.
Okay. My background is special operations with the Air Force, and I have to include that because I worked with survival equipment. So I worked hand in hand with night vision goggles, and night vision goggles have everything to do with phosphorus. Fast forward from there, after I got out of special operations, I opened a kombucha brewery. And as many of the SCOBY that is used, the culture that is used to make kombucha is also considered a fungus type. After I closed my brewery, while COVID was going on, I closed the day before my birthday on purpose so that the following day I could go into school and go into my new chapter, which was psychedelic mushrooms. What happened to me, I heard you talk a little bit about ayahuasca. I had an experience like that, except that mine was accidental. I was very sick at the time and I couldn't sleep. And so I took some melatonin along with some other things to get me to sleep. I don't want to mention what they are because that was my experience. If most people took what I took, they would probably die. And I'm not saying that in a cool way. It's just the sleep deprivation had me. And I mixed a cocktail together, woke up, and I saw things I had never seen before. Respectively, I felt this amazing feeling of love to the point where I thought that I had a brain tumor. And I had never heard of the awakening or what ayahuasca did or anything like that. I went to the doctor to get my brain checked. I got my blood checked, went to an acupuncturist, all these different things, and found out that when my pineal gland went off, it never really stopped, and it still doesn't. So I get a lot of information given to me every day that's a little interesting at times because I dove into physics almost immediately after that happened to me. And I was born not the smartest. And why I say that is because I was born blue with the cord wrapped around my neck. Now, why I share all that is because I was truly dumb. I had learning disabilities as well as I couldn't comprehend or get through school very well. I'm on the spectrum of Asperger's. And so with that being said, fast forward, that's how I got into mushrooms. Mushrooms work hand in hand with phosphorus. And it just happened to work well with me because I already had an understanding of that.
This is fascinating. Lilly Gypsy with us, talking to us, educating us regarding her experiences using mushrooms. If you could break it down in the basic form for us, because we're really new to this and a lot of our audience is new. Some people know as well, but what are the different types of mushrooms or popular ones and uses for it?
There are a lot of mushrooms from traditional as well as psychedelic. The way I like to introduce people to it is according to your blood type. A lot of people that are into mushrooms have different categories that they specialize in. Mine happens to be according to the person because we are different snowflakes. With that being said, I grow a lot of different strains. And so how I can answer that question is according to your nervous system. So I do muscle testing and I find out the person's person's blood type and I test different strains according to that person. For example, penis envy is the second strongest type that exists as of right now in the country, and that type isn't necessarily always good for blood type O. Blood type O is a very strong blood type, and that particular strain I have found isn't as conducive to that blood type. Now, that doesn't mean it's straight across the board. It also depends on your RNA background. So I work with coding and DNA and the nervous system. So I try to work along those lines. To answer your question in a simplistic form is to muscle test yourself, and that's how you find out what strain is best for you. Now, with all of the different strains that are out there, I always recommend people to find these things out, the blood type in particularly, and look it up yourself to find out where your sensitivity level lies. And hopefully that answered your question. I try to go about that much differently than people traditionally teach so that people understand that the blood is the most important before the mushroom.
Okay, Lily, you're fascinating.
Very much so.
I'm like,
Very
oh,
much
I,
so.
I feel like I walked into a super high count class and I'm trying to catch up and
Yeah.
learn
Yeah,
really
not what I
fast.
expected you to
I'm
say.
trying.
This is very fascinating.
Okay, the benefits, and I talked a little bit about this, Lily. I listened to a man talk about some clinical research. Do you recommend mushrooms or certain mushrooms for people? And if so, why and for what situations?
Yes, I definitely do. I was diagnosed with CTE, which is a concussion brain injury because of serving in special operations. I have a compassion for those that serve in special ops, as well as football players when you were talking about Aaron Rodgers and UFC fighters and all of that. I have worked with professional athletes and have been able to watch the process of their undoing, if you will, for those brain injuries. The reason why I say that is because when you combine mushrooms with binaural beats, which is a music beat system that can bring your brain chemistry back to itself again, then we can become whole. So when you think of androgenism, which is nor male or female, it's one. Our brain becomes one when we take mushrooms. To answer your question, as far as people go, depression, PTSD, addiction, we can go on, but the bottom line is the coding of the epigenetics with your DNA. Epigenetics is recoding your DNA antenna. We were bottom of the barrel after the flood happened and the electromagnetic energy of the air changed. And so that's why everything is rising up. That's why we're sitting here today.